So you want to start investing, but you don't know what to do about taxes. Or you're wondering if there's a way to pay less tax on your investments legally and ethically. My team and I have spent months researching tax rules in every European country. And in this video, I will share a 5-step checklist that will help you reduce and simplify your investing taxes no matter where you live in Europe. I will also share the #1 tax research tool that I rely on as a professional investor with 19 years of experience. The thing is, every country in Europe has its own tax laws. The best investments in Spain or Italy could give you a big tax bill in the UK or Switzerland. And if you move from country to country, things get even harder. But on the positive side, each country in Europe has its own loopholes and special rules that can reduce taxes for smart investors. So here's how you do that. Step #1, figure out your tax residence. The other day, a student emailed me and said, "Hey Tom, I'm Estonian, but I live in London. What do you think? Would it be better for me to pay tax in Estonia or the UK?" Listen, it's not up to you. You can't just choose whichever country is more convenient. You have to pay investment tax in the country where you are a tax resident. Tax residence is not the same as legal residence. It doesn't depend on where you have a residence permit. It depends on where you live, work, and have your family. So the first thing to check is the physical presence test. In most European countries, if you spend more than 183 days in that country in any given year, you will likely be considered a tax resident in that country. Spend more than half a year in Spain or France or Portugal, and you're probably a tax resident there. But physical presence alone is not enough to determine tax residence. Another factor is your long-term home. In which country do you own a home or have a long-term rental agreement? And a third critical factor is your family and economic ties, what is called your center of vital interests. For example, my friend Ernest works most of the year in Riga, Latvia, but his wife and kids live in Frankfurt, Germany, and he's actually a German tax resident on the basis of his center of vital interests. Make sure that you know your tax residence before you even think about investing. Step #2, learn which investment taxes apply in your country. There are at least 5 categories of standard investment taxes that you should be familiar with if you want to make money investing. The first category is capital gains tax. Capital gains is a fancy way of saying the price went up. If you sell a stock or ETF at a profit, you've got capital gains. Now, with some exceptions, such as Switzerland, Cyprus, and Andorra, most European countries will tax your capital gains when you sell an investment. And a few countries, like Denmark, will even tax your paper gains. So you have to pay tax even if you don't sell your shares. The second category is dividend tax. If you get a dividend from a stock or ETF, you've got to pay tax on that. The third category is transaction tax. These taxes apply to each purchase and sale of a financial instrument. You will find transaction taxes in many European countries such as Belgium, Switzerland, and the UK. The fourth category, wealth tax. Tax the rich. It's a great idea, isn't it? But it's kind of annoying when it happens to you. Wealth taxes are charged on your assets regardless of whether you have actually earned a profit in a given year. These taxes apply in a limited number of countries such as Spain and Norway. And then we have the fifth category, exit taxes. Let's say you bought a bunch of Apple shares while living in Austria and you didn't sell them. Currently, you have a 10,000 euro paper profit on these shares. Then you leave Austria to move to Spain. When you stop being a tax resident in Austria, you will need to pay tax on your 10,000 euros of theoretical profit. Exit taxes are found in quite a few European countries, including not just Austria, but also France, Germany, Poland, Spain, and others. Okay, but of course, these 5 categories are not a complete list. In some countries, other taxes apply as well, such as Box 3 taxes in the Netherlands, or the deemed disposal tax in Ireland, or the Vorhabpauschale in Germany. Sorry about the pronunciation. I know from experience that figuring out all the local tax rules can be overwhelming. That's why we built an investment tax portal for the members of the Index Masterclass, my step-by-step training program for European investors. In our portal, we cover the investment tax rules for 34 European countries in simple language, including ways to legally and ethically reduce your investing taxes. Just click the first link in the description to find out more. Alright, but now let's move on to step number 3, which is use tax-advantaged investments to pay less tax. Most European countries offer investors some ways to reduce their investment taxes without breaking the law or doing anything unethical. In the best cases, using tax-advantaged investments can allow you to invest essentially tax-free. Here are 4 common types of tax-advantaged investments to look for. First, tax-advantaged brokerage accounts. This type of account lets you invest while paying less tax or no tax at all. Great examples include the ISA in the UK, the ISK in Sweden, and the PEA in France. Second, tax-advantaged investments. In some countries, particular investments get better tax treatment, such as index mutual funds in Spain, qualifying distributing funds in Denmark, and UCITS funds in Greece. Third, tax-advantaged pension funds. In many countries, you can get tax rebates or generous tax exemptions when investing in pension funds. For example, many Irish investors buy ETFs or index funds inside a PRSA pension account for better tax treatment. And fourth, you've got tax exemptions. For example, in Germany, your first 1,000 euros of investment income per year is tax-free. In Belgium, you get 10,000 euros of tax-free capital gains per year, while in the Czech Republic, investments held for more than 3 years are completely exempt from capital gains taxes. Naturally, in some countries, there are other forms of tax optimization as well, but these 4 are the big ones. So before you start investing, check what is available in your country. This is also something we research for the members of the Index Masterclass, by the way. But if you'd like to do the research on your own, in a minute, I'll share a resource that is a great starting point. Next up, step number 4, choose a tax-optimized brokerage. First of all, many of the tax-advantaged investments in your country may only be available through a local brokerage. And second, in some countries, choosing the right local brokerage makes your tax filing and reporting much easier. The worst offenders here are Austria, Germany, and Denmark. If you don't have a local brokerage in those countries, tax reporting becomes kind of a nightmare. This is why German and Austrian investors often use local firms like Trade Republic and FlatEx, while Danish investors often use Danish firms like Saxo. But these are not the only countries where the choice of brokerage really matters. For example, if you live in Bulgaria, picking the right brokerage can help you invest completely tax-free, because with the right brokerage, you can control on which stock exchange you buy and sell ETFs, and this determines whether you need to pay taxes. And finally, we get to step 5. Optimize your portfolio to pay tax as late as possible. Let's say you've got to pay the government 1,000 euros in taxes sooner or later. So which do you prefer? A, pay the government now, or B, invest the 1,000 euros to make you some profit and then 10 years later pay the government? Well, it's a no-brainer, right? It's better to get 10 years of use out of your money before you hand it over. So that's the logic behind tax deferral. Look at the investments and the accounts and the tax rules in your country and see if there's anything you can do to pay tax later instead of today. The best solution in most European countries is so-called accumulating index funds and ETFs. These funds don't pay you any dividends. That means you typically pay 0 tax until you finally sell the fund far in the future. But this does not work in every country. Specifically, if you're based in Switzerland, Austria, Denmark, or the UK, accumulating ETFs will not really help you. Which illustrates an important point. There is no single tax-optimized portfolio that works great everywhere from London to Berlin to Budapest. If you want to properly optimize your portfolio, you will have to figure out your local tax rules in detail. Now, you can, of course, do this on your own. The best free resource that I know for this is the Worldwide Tax Summaries database compiled by PricewaterhouseCoopers, the big international auditor company. The link is taxsummaries.pwc.com. If you want to quickly discover the key facts about taxes in the country where you live, the tax summaries are great. That said, the PwC database is technical. It's written for tax professionals, and it does not go into details about popular investments such as ETFs and index funds. Nor does it cover tax-advantaged investment accounts. That is exactly why my team and I spent many months and tens of thousands of euros on tax advisors to build a tax portal for our investing students. This is included in the membership fee when you join join the Index Masterclass, our step-by-step training program for European investors. Plus, around half of our members are expats, so we also cover what happens when you move from country to country. So if that's interesting to you, I encourage you to follow the first link in the description, book a call with my team, and find out more.